Well, it's the third and final day of Afreximbank's 2024 annual meetings. Now, in addition to private sector trade, investment conversations and multi-billion-dollar deals being done, the meetings will take on the role of sports and the creative industry in fostering further Afri-Caribbean relations. Here to take us through it all is Arise anchor Mairo-Ese and Arise international correspondent Adefemi Akinsanya. Ayo and Adefemi, good afternoon to you both from Lagos, and many thanks for joining the show. I'm sure you've got some really great new updates for us again today.
We do. How are you doing, Abby? It's so good to hear from you, is it not?
Yes, same here. Lovely to see you.
And good afternoon.
Yeah, great. Well, let's begin with the private sector, which is pretty much making its presence felt today. Could you please take us through who is involved in the discussions about opportunities for investment and diversification in the Caribbean?
Definitely. So just behind me now, we've got one of the earlier plenary sessions still taking place. And though we have been taking it live, you've got the comments from Afreximbank President. He's Professor Benedict Okeorama, he's in attendance, but also Owando Group leader Wale Tinubu, he is also in attendance. He just came off stage a few minutes ago, and he was talking about the importance of the private sector in fostering trade, not just within the African continent, but definitely intra-Afri-Caribbean regions. So that's going to be very interesting. We're hoping to speak to him one-on-one so we can get a bit more insight specifically into what his goals are as it pertains to these meetings, and whether or not on the third day he finds them to be successful. He's been in attendance almost every day. He's been listening to all of the different sessions, always in the front row, always taking notes. He's quite a quiet man in that sense, in the sense that he's sitting down and listening and taking over. We're hoping that when we speak to him one-on-one, he'll be able to give us a bit more insight. Going through the day later on, we'll also be looking at different ways the private sector can foster trade in the Caribbean and vice versa. So we will have panels that will include the leader of Access Corporation.
Yes, Mr. Aig Mokwede is
Absolutely, he's here. He'll be taking the panel. And also you'll have representatives of banks and other private sector firms from the Caribbean, from Guyana, here in Bahamas, and it will be interesting to see, again, from these conversations, what lasting deals can be done. That's really what we're focused on here today.
Absolutely. It already sounds really power-packed, just like the last couple of days have been. And I'm also, of course, really looking forward to this private sector partnership conversations. But let's take a look now at the role women are playing as champions of Afro-Caribbean trade. What conversations have been had in this regard, Aya?
All right, so early this morning, there was a side event where we looked at women as champions of Afri-Caribbean trade. It was a very powerful conversation. Had two panel sessions, one with women who are already doing work in terms of promoting women in business and seeing how we can facilitate even more trade across Africa and the Caribbean, and also showcasing some success stories. Another panel talking about stories of women, business-owned, women-led businesses who have been able to thrive and do businesses across Africa and Afri-Caribbean, but also it provided a platform to talk about some of the challenges that women do face in terms of, even as much as personal empowerment, being able to be capacitated to run businesses that are big enough to trade on that kind of level, and also, facilities available by Afreximbank to promote and support more women doing business and also doing business across continents. We had Nigerians' own Mrs. Ibukan Woshika of the International Women Leadership Conference in Dubai, who shared her own partnership with Afreximbank and how she's been able to bring women from Africa and the Caribbean together at her annual conference, and she's able to share knowledge, also give opportunities for networking, scaling up, also being able to train women, women-led businesses as to how they can really maximize opportunities that truly, currently exist. I think very importantly, Adefemi, was to talk about the fact that this conversation shouldn't just be about gender. It's actually a business case. Women make up over 50% in most countries that make up, on the African and Caribbean nations. And so it makes business sense that your major resource-based are able to maximize opportunities. So it was quite important. It was opened up by Afrexim's own Executive Vice President, Kanayo Awani, who shared her own personal experience of rising through the ranks and how much Afreximbank, through its president, President Orama, are committed to ensuring that women-led businesses thrive and are able to scale up enough to do business and trade across continents.
Yes, and he was also described as a he for she.
Yes, he was.
Someone who surrounds himself with women on his own team, but across different positions within the bank. And then just to follow up on what you said, Ayo, it was very interesting to hear those statistics because women do already have quite a presence in business across the Caribbean and definitely in Africa. But one thing that we're seeing mirrored is that the formalities is what's lacking. So there was a lot of conversation about the first step, registering your business, asking questions. And we did have a Dr. Armani on the stage. I think she was from North Africa or Egypt, and she talked about her experiences when she was first starting out in business and essentially taking those first steps, learning how to register, asking the right questions and finding out what facilities are available to you. Because when it comes to the presence, we do know that women are present in entrepreneurial spaces, in small to medium enterprises, but looking at how they can challenge this business issue, as Mrs. Awoshuka mentioned, it is about finding out what resources are available to you and then having the confidence to actually go ahead and take it. I think that their conversations, even though they didn't mention imposter syndrome, that is one of the issues that could be keeping women away. That and patriarchy, of course, but it was definitely a powerful session.
This is so great to hear. I mean, as we certainly know that this is a very pertinent discussion, and it's great to hear that, the necessary room is being made for it, the necessary attention is being given to it. So very great to hear that. Thanks for sharing that. Now we know that Fidelity Bank has been making headlines following the announcement of funding from Afreximbank. What has the CEO, who we all believe is in attendance, got to say about this?
Alrighty, so we'll split this because we haven't been able to see the managing director of Fidelity Bank just yet. She is going to be making an appearance, and we had initially thought that she would be speaking before we spoke to you, but we will be speaking to her later. And what we will be talking to her is this funding that has just recently come through from Afreximbank, and that is just another example again of the bank's commitment to driving Africa first. However, I do want to also touch on the controversy off the back of the decision, if she'd be able to share some information about that with us.
The funding is up to a tune of $40 million signed just a few days before the meetings commenced with between Afreximbank and Fidelity Bank. Their chief CEO, Ineka Onyali-Ikpe, is here in the Bahamas, and she's actually going to be speaking on one of the plenaries this evening, and hopefully Adefemi and I will have an opportunity to also talk to her in terms of the facility that has been provided by Afreximbank to be able to acquire Union Bank UK and just expanding their frontiers and, like you mentioned, deepening, demonstrating their commitment to African and Caribbean-owned businesses to ensure that we own our destiny and truly create prosperity.
That would be really great to hear. Of course, it's a really great development, and of course, we've kept eyes on the performance of that bank for quite a while under her helm. Well, we want to say many thanks for keeping boots on the ground, Adefemi and Ayo, and of course for the fantastic reporting over the course of the last few days. We hope you enjoy the last day and hope you get to see a bit more of the Bahamas as well.